and that's a post-workout shake. So let me elaborate. So when we exercise, what we're doing is taking this glycogen, remember the stored energy that's in there? Remember we have 1 molecule of glycogen to 3 parts water, and this glycogen gets taken out to make energy, ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So when we're exercising, we secrete 5 hormones: growth hormone, epinephrine, norepinephrine, glucagon, and cortisol. And these 5 hormones have a specific job, and that is to block insulin. Okay, so they can break down glucose so that we can use it in exercise. So when we take out all this glycogen out of our muscle cells after you work out, you'll wait about 15-20 minutes and then you'll drink a post-workout shake. For example, something like our Max Arm, which is Anabolic Recovery Matrix, solid. Let me go in more detail about a post-workout. So numerous research studies have shown an ideal post-workout shake, considering if you did a full body exhaustion workout, you would want around about 65-70 grams of carbohydrates, okay? And these have to be high glycemic, and I'll explain what high glycemic means shortly. You also want about 20 grams of protein, and now the type of protein, what we want in your shake is something that leaves your stomach right away, and there's different types of proteins, and they come out of your stomach really slowly as well. So the best protein I recommend is to use something like that is 100% hydrolyzed whey protein, because you want it to leave right away and get into your muscle cells to replenish and to start the recovery process. The one thing about hydrolyzed whey protein, I used to work for manufacturing, and it's just really rancid tasting, and it tastes horrible, and it's pretty much really expensive to make. That's why you don't really see many of these proteins in the marketplace. The alternative is to use, and it'll work just as well, is an isolate whey protein, for example, like so. We have chocolate, vanilla, strawberries, and we have fruity ones. I like this one. And then you want about 20 grams of branched chain amino acids, or BCAAs. And they're also great when you're exercising. You're actually breaking down muscle tissue and releasing branched chain amino acids. And you use those, the ketone bodies, for energy. So if you take BCAAs during your workouts, you reduce the risk of breaking down muscle tissue, and you actually get better recovery afterwards and better muscle growth. And so then you take about 5 to 10 grams of glutamine. Oh gosh, glutamine is one of the best amino acids out there. It does many things besides muscle recovery. It feeds your intestinal lining of your cells, which are called enterocytes. So your body can absorb food better. It's the highest concentration amino acid in the spinal cerebral fluid. So your nerves will work much better. You'll think more clearly. It helps maintain muscle once again. It's one of the things that it's one of the main things that I like about it is it helps to secrete more growth hormone, and growth hormone helps to preserve and regenerate cells for faster muscle growth. So glutamine is one of the coolest amino acids out there. Moving on, I also would include about 200 to 300 milligrams of ALA, or alpha lipoic acid. And again, ALA helps your body to secrete more insulin. And why do you want more insulin? It's the timing of it, because when you spike insulin, it's going to shove all this glucose and all the amino acids right back into your muscle cells, and causing something called cell volumization. So it's going to make you bigger and full with water at the same time with all these nutrients. For example, your car runs a lot better when there's water in the radiator because it keeps the engine cool. Well, cell volumization, or cell volumizing, we found that when your cells are bigger and full of water, all the reactions that take place in your cells at a cellular level usually act with water. So by having that water in there helps the cells work a lot more better or efficiently. Okay, so that's really key. You also want about 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C. It's a vitamin, antioxidant. Remember, you just create a lot of stress and free radicals after working out. And also 1,000 milligrams of vitamin E as well. Let's see what else. You want about 10 grams of creatine. Now, this is optional because it really depends on what the type of athlete you are. Creatine. So if you're a bodybuilder, a weightlifter, powerlifter, or even let's say a boxer, for example, is somebody who needs to do something really quickly and fast speed, creatine is great, and it's one of the most researched supplements today with positive and effective results. Because what creatine does, it helps to regenerate quick energy, like power, explosion, short bursts of energy. So when we look at energy, there's three types of energy. We have ATP phosphatidylcreatine energy system, which lasts about 10 seconds. Then you have the anaerobic glycolysis, which is burning sugar without any oxygen, which can last anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute at the most, maybe depending on how well-trained an athlete you are. And the third is aerobic glycolysis, which can last up to 4 hours. Anaerobic just means exercise with oxygen. So when you're running a marathon and you're over here, you're just using fat and carbs for an extended period of time. So creatine does absolutely nothing for you. So in addition, when you're holding your breath for less than 10 seconds, like a 40-yard sprint, it's not going to do much for you either. But if you're over here in the weightlifting arena or boxing, for example, where you have around 10 seconds, like for example, how long does it take you to do like a set of weights? 8 to 10 seconds, right? So if you're taking creatine, you might get 6 to 8 reps, maybe 2 reps more. With those extra 2 reps, puts your muscles under more stress. So, but then you have to eat to be able to make that muscle bigger. So it's a process, it's a circular process. So creatine doesn't make you bigger, it just gives you the energy to perform better. So remember how I talked about ATP, adenosine triphosphate? Well, adenosine triphosphate gets broken down and it gives away a phosphate, and this phosphate is what we use for energy. So now that adenosine triphosphate has now become adenosine diphosphate, so this molecule gets recycled in what they call a Krebs cycle to get rephosphorylated or to have energy again. So what creatine monohydrate does is when it gets inside the cell, okay, it becomes creatine phosphate, and then it donates a phosphate to ADP, adenosine diphosphate, making it ATP again. So you have that recycled energy or that rep or that push or that sprint. So it repeats itself. So creatine is great if you're doing something that lasts for about 10 seconds, like a weight training session. You rest and then you perform it again, and so on. So this is very useful. Highly recommend. Okay, so if you're a marathon runner or a cyclist, creatine will, when it gets inside your cells, it just pulls in more water. Okay, and I see people gain about 10 to 15 pounds of water on creatine. So I've seen cyclists pay up to $5,000 for a bicycle. That's about maybe 10 ounces lighter. So why would you put in 14 pounds of water and pay $5,000 for a bike that's lighter? It doesn't make no sense. So creatine doesn't work well for triathletes or marathon runners or cyclists unless you're maybe off season and would like to build up muscles for power and strength. And I'll also talk about high intensity exercise tends to break down muscle tissue in a minute. Okay, so supplement post-workout. So to recap, after workout, take about 70 grams carbohydrates, 20 grams about protein from hydrolyzed whey protein or isolate protein, 20 grams of branched chain amino acids, 1,000 milligrams vitamin C, vitamin E, and creatine optional if you want to build more muscle mass. And if you're an endurance athlete, do away with it. So it's kind of like when you get home from a long trip, your car is on empty, and you want to fill the tank up so you can go the next time. Okay, that's a post-workout. And again, Max Muscle Arm has all this included, so that's why I really encourage you to have this in your regime. Works really well, tastes really good too. And I've had customers that run marathons, CrossFitters completing a recent competition, clients that just did a Spartan race or something, and they usually can't move for about a week, and I had them do this, or what I just suggested, and about 2 to 3 days later, they're like, I'm ready to do another one. And but I don't recommend to do another one, but it's that effective. So you get my drift. And worst case scenario, if you had nothing else, even if you had about 70 grams of sugar from any beverage other than high fructose corn syrup, it would raise your sugar levels and go right back into your muscle cells to replenish it. as well. So it's why recently you've seen companies like chocolate milk trending as a decent post-workout, or even people saying on Instagram or saying, you know, eat gummy bears or rice, even soda drinks, which I don't know. But listen, I'm just trying to teach better practices. There's always good, better, best practices, and it's just getting you into a smarter habit on what can speed recovery the best. And doing any of these is much better than not doing anything at all. So if the workouts aren't that intense, let's just say you went out for a casual hike, maybe about a 30-minute jog around your neighborhood. Again, it's about good, smartest practices. A simple solution would be just to take a good protein supplement. Again, preferably isolate protein, for example, with a little bit of carbohydrates so that it goes right back into the muscle cells for recovery. And about 30 minutes later, you know, have a normal healthy meal and go about the rest of your day, okay? So our new delicious Max Gourmet Elite protein would do just fine. And you can also use this as a great meal replacement. So it's pretty versatile stuff. And, oh, did I mention we use real Oreo cookies for that? So it's really good. Best tasting meal replacement ever. So now keep in mind, when you drink the post-workout, your blood sugar levels will skyrocket, right? And stores everything into your muscle cells, and about 20-30 minutes later, your blood sugar levels will start to crash. And therefore you might start to feel a little clammy or you're a little shaky. That's called hypoglycemia. So it's really important that you need to eat a healthy and balanced meal, like, for example, a piece of chicken with brown rice or a little lean steak with some veggies within an hour or two, and then continue about your day, okay? So, and do you consider a post-workout shake as part of your meal? And the answer is no. Unless you're doing a bodybuilding show, then, you know, usually I count everything about 4 to 6 weeks out. And that's the rare exception.